The elevator opened on a floor that wasn't there yesterday. I stepped forward before the doors could change their mind. The panel had blinked 12, then 13, then the number vanished like a guilty thought. Yet the corridor stretched ahead, late night long, with carpet that didn't match the building's neutral gray. This was wine red, old hotel red, the kind that swallows shoe steps and makes you feel like you're trespassing in a movie that ends badly. Down the middle, a hum rode the air, low, electrical, like a refrigerator in the next room with something alive inside it. The door near the far corner wore a brass plate, 13B. The font was wrong for our building, too decorative, too sure of itself. I checked my phone. No signal. The clock read 0-100, which felt like a dare. Not funny, I said to no one, because this floor was a joke architects didn't tell. I'd toured the blueprints when I moved in, nerd snooping with the property manager. The high-rise skipped 13 like most places that want to outsmart superstition. Yet there I was, counting, 11, 12, this. The exit sign glowed a little too green. The sprinklers were a little too new. The thermostat display on the wall flickered through numbers that weren't temperatures. 1978, 2003, 417, her name. And I looked away before it finished spelling the rest. I should have pressed the elevator button and let the doors erase the hallway, but the hum tugged. I realized it wasn't steady. It breathed, a drone with lungs. Behind the walls, something adjusted its weight as if taking me into account. The peephole on 13B was dark. I didn't knock. I pressed my ear to the wood, warm. On the other side, a whisper fell apart and reassembled into a word I knew too well. Stay. Problem is, I don't obey voices, especially the ones that sound like my own mistakes. I reached for the knob. It was smooth and cold and already turning, because sometimes doors choose you first. The lights dimmed. The hum rose from somewhere deep, pitching itself like a question that wants to be answered in blood or truth or both. And when 13B opened, it smelled like a room that had waited a long time to be discovered and had practiced how to greet me. When the door closed, the hallway stopped existing. The latch clicked, and with it, the corridor blinked out. No echo, no exit sign, just a rectangular room that shouldn't fit inside a tower. The walls were painted the color of patient teeth. In the center sat a single chair facing a mirror, and beyond the mirror, a faint outline of another chair, emptier than mine. Fluorescence hummed. So did the vents. So did something beneath the floor, deeper than plumbing. There was a file cabinet in the corner. 4 drawers, each labeled with a year I'd promised to forget. Top, 2003. Middle, 2016. Lower, 2021. Bottom, here. The labels weren't printed, they were etched. I touched the metal and felt a pulse that pretended it was nothing. The mirror held me correctly. No ghost logic, no delay, but after 3 breaths it started adding things. First a thin crack that zigzagged across the top, then a second reflection peeking behind my shoulder, as if the glass had a mezzanine for braver versions of me. I turned. The room behind me was bare. I turned back. In the mirror, the second me stepped closer, lips moving in a cadence I knew from sleepless nights. "Do not speak your name," she mouthed. "Names turn locks here." I swallowed mine like a secret. The hum dipped, then steadied, approving. I checked the chair. A sticky note clung to the seat, curling at the edges as if the air had eroded it for years. "Sit when ready. The room is listening." Behind the vent, someone drew a slow breath. I crouched and placed my palm against the grill. Warmth leaked through, tinged with the scent of old paper and rain on radiators. "Who's there?" I asked, already hating the cliché of it. "Not who," came the reply, little more than air-forming consonants. "When," the syllables scraped the metal. "We answer in tenses." The cabinet shivered like a dog shaking off river water. The here drawer slid open by an inch, inviting. Inside, a single key lay on a velvet square. long, skeletal, its bit cut with a pattern that looked uncomfortably like my heartbeat on a monitor. The tag said door with no frame. I didn't see any door without a frame, but the mirror was a frame with no door. I looked again. My other self smiled without showing teeth and tapped her throat. Don't say it. The room exhaled through the vent, and the hum arranged itself into something like counting. Somewhere below, a floor I'd never visited finished deciding whether I belonged. The sound under the floor counted 1, 2, 4. 3 vanished, as if the room didn't believe in it. I stood very still, measuring breath against hum, heartbeat against fluorescent flicker. The key chimed softly in my hand, though I hadn't moved. The mirror added a third reflection, smaller, behind the second, stacked futures or accumulated versions, I couldn't tell. The smallest one had wet hair and eyes that refused to decide between fear and relief. "Why are you here?" I asked the room, which answered by ignoring the question and tightening the air the way an elevator does between floors. The cabinet's 2003 drawer begged with a thin rattle. I pulled it halfway. Inside, Polaroids, none of which I remembered taking, each labeled in the handwriting of someone who knew my lines better than I did. Birthday, left ear bleeds. Library, do not take stairwell D midnight. Knocks stopped at 12 this time. I put them down fast. The room liked that. It fed on the flinch. I sat. The chair sighed as if I'd finally given it purpose. The sticky note adhered to the back of my thigh like a joke. The mirror softened, and my second self lifted her hand, palm forward, the way someone does when they're about to reveal a magic trick they never wanted to learn. "Listen," she mouthed. The hum collapsed into a whisper that used the shape of the vents to make syllables. 5, 6, 8. The counting skipped again. I knew what the missing number was. Not 3, 7. I don't hold superstitions, but the night does. I remembered all the times the elevator had paused an extra beat at 7, and the way my phone battery always died at 7% exactly on nights when I made the mistake of checking old messages. "What happens at 7?" I whispered. The floor answered by not answering, by tilting, by letting the sound lean into a frequency that made my teeth ache. In the mirror, a door appeared where there hadn't been one. Just outline and hardware, no wall, no jam. The tag on the key warmed against my skin as letters burned brighter. Door with no frame. "Fine," I said. "We'll do this your way." The second me nodded. The smallest me shook her head, water dripping from hair that hadn't been wet in this room. I stood, approached the mirror, and pressed the key where the outline hovered in the glass. It slid in with the obscene ease of something rehearsed. On 2 turns, the counting stopped short of 7 again, saving it like a last bullet. The lock gave, the mirror breathed out, and the room beyond the glass exhaled my apartment's scent. Laundry detergent, coffee, and the cold metal aftertaste of midnight alarms. My living room looked back at me from inside the mirror. Same sofa, same throw blanket with a burn that wasn't my fault, same city glow smear on the window. But the light was wrong, too still like an edited sky, and everything was arranged as if waiting to be filmed. I stepped through the door with no frame and into a copy that felt forged by someone who loved the details and hated the soul. The hum joined me, now muffled, now closer. On my kitchen table lay objects I didn't own, a metronome ticking at a tempo that matched the elevator's indecisive pauses, a gold wristwatch frozen at 7:07, and a folded map of the building with a penciled-in note: "If the stairwell starts counting down, run up." On my wall, where my clock should hang, a circular mirror reflected nothing. "Whose life is this?" I said, because if it wasn't mine, then I could leave it behind. The answer arrived not in words, but in steps, soft, bare, approaching from the hallway where my bedroom should be. I held very still. A girl my height and wronger than me turned the corner, hair wet like the smallest reflection, wearing my old camp t-shirt no one but me remembered. She looked relieved and furious. "You took too long," she said. "I don't know you," I said. "You don't know the part of you that survives," she corrected, and gestured at the frozen watch. "We only have until 7, After that, the building changes its mind. The metronome ticked. 6. We both heard it. The map on the table wrinkled itself toward the blueprint's missing floor, and the pencil mark moved as if tracked by a lazy predator. I grabbed her wrist. She was real enough to flinch. "What happens if we stay?" I asked. "You don't stay," she said. "You repeat." She pointed at the circular mirror that reflected nothing. "That's where the hum goes when it's hungry." The apartment copy shuddered. Pictures shook. Drawers trembled, the metronome stuttered and then corrected. A whisper breathed through the vents, identical to the one in 13B and the one in my real kitchen at 3 a.m. When the refrigerator sounds human, say your name, it suggested. Names turn locks. I pressed my lips shut. She smiled like a teacher whose student just solved something out loud. "Good," she said. "Now, when it starts counting down." It started. 10, 9. The hum changed shape, the air thinned, the mirror door behind me cooled, as if it had been warm-blooded all along. We ran. Past the couch, past the map that tried to fold us inside it, through the hallway that almost remembered my photographs. At the bedroom threshold, the counting skipped 7 again, and every light in the apartment copy blinked twice. "Up," she said, and pointed, not at stairs, but at the ceiling. The ceiling answered with a hatch that hadn't been there, cracking open like an eye that was tired of being closed. We climbed into a ceiling that turned out to be a floor. Above the hatch, the real building returned in slices. The smell of dust I actually owned, the hush of neighbors I actually hated. We crawled onto a landing that was neither 12 nor 14, a landing between decisions. The hatch snicked shut on the copy, and the metronome's phantom tick died like a heartbeat making room for another. The hum followed, softer now, like a machine learning to whisper. The girl who wasn't me pressed her ear to the wall and nodded, as if the building had just confessed something. "It knows you," she said. "It's going to ask one more time." The stairwell inhaled. 6, 5, countdown. I stared down the flight to where 13 should never have been, and up toward the floors I paid rent for. My throat itched with the urge to say my name and force an ending, any ending, even the wrong one. The watch on her wrist, my wrist, in another summer, flickered from 7:07 to and back. "What are you?" I asked her, not bothering to dress it as kindness. "An exit," she said. "A version that took a different door and learned not to gloat about it." She offered me her hand. "We leave on 4, we run through 3, we skip 7, we don't look for 13 again." "And the room?" I asked. 13B? "It's for people who try to finish nights by force," she said. "It hums them into shapes that fit the walls." 4. The stairwell lights brightened too much, like an apology. We ran. 3. The landing disagreed with gravity, then cooperated. 2. A door that had never existed swung open at the top of the flight, labeled with nothing at all. Beyond it, the legit hallway waited, ugly carpet, familiar complaints. 1. The hum hushed, as if we'd put a finger to its lips. We burst through. The door didn't slam. It sealed, like a word finished correctly. Behind us, the landing sighed and relocated itself to wherever liminal spaces retire when they're off shift. My phone woke up. Signal bars, the right time, a message from a friend asking if I was still up. The elevator dinged, bored, at 14. "Will it come back?" I asked, dumb for a real answer. She tucked damp hair behind her ear, leaving a wet comma on her cheek. "If you try to finish nights by naming yourself like a key," she said, "if you go looking for rooms that want to keep you, if you forget to skip 7. "What are you now?" I asked. "Gone," she said, with the pleased cruelty of a solved problem. She walked toward the corner, blurred at the edge of a flicker, and stepped into a shadow that decided it was a door. I stood alone with the building that pretended it had always been sensible. The thermostat on the wall read the correct temperature. The exit sign glowed a normal, flawed green. I stared at the place where 13B should show if I looked hard enough. I didn't. I pressed the elevator button. When the doors opened, I kept my name behind my teeth and rode the night up.